We're talking about aliens.
Yes.
We might be talking about how NASA once tried to send nudes to aliens.
Yes.
You brought that up. This is Erica Bergoglio. She is a killer investigator we have here at News 6. And I'm excited for what you're bringing to the big white table tonight.
You know what's funny, Matt, people probably don't realize this, but I've been working at News 6 for almost 9 years now. I'm just a recent TV person, but I was your 11 o'clock producer.
You've produced for me at 11, probably 6.
Probably almost every show you've done. Yeah. So I've been here. We've worked together a while.
It is rare, and you have to be super talented to be able to go from, but people think like, oh, maybe everybody starts behind the scenes and moves to the front of the camera. That's not actually how it usually works. You have to have some skills. They saw skills in you, and now you're doing an awesome job. I've loved your stories. We've been showing them a bunch on our show, and now we get to actually talk to you. Another thing that's a fun story about you is who you're married to.
He's a pretty great guy.
This rapscallion ends up on our show as well. This is Jonathan Kagas. He seemed like surprised. Like, who are they talking about? Jonathan Kagas, our meteorologist, also your husband. I was honored to get to go to your beautiful wedding. Very great moment there. You guys looked amazing. And Jonathan, you're bringing the heat, not just to your wife, but also in the weather department.
Yeah. Way to go, Matt. Yeah, not to make it awkward or anything. Yeah. No, we broke
She's
records.
already turning red over
Oh my
here.
gosh.
Yeah.
Save us, please.
We broke records today in the temperature department. Temperatures got back to the upper 80s today, 89 in Orlando. These are the actual air temperatures today observed at the official observing sites. Sanford back to 88 by 2 degrees, 87 in Sanford, 88 in Leesburg today. Those are all new records from this afternoon. What's going to be concerning, though, is this weekend. Of course, we got the new drought numbers yesterday. That comes out every Thursday, or the drought graphic, I should say. But the extreme drought pushed south from North Florida and then pushed north from South Florida, kind of sandwiching us in between. So now Marion, northern half of Volusia, and then Flagler all now considered to be an extreme drought. And then that little snippet of southeastern Brevard, that's going to include us and Mico. So we're already really dry. We're talking record heat tomorrow that's going to dry things out. And then we have a super dry air mass coming into play on Sunday. That's the one that's going to take our temperatures back down into the 30s by Monday and Tuesday morning. So really cold air coming. But what I'm most concerned about is the wind. If you remember last Sunday, we had these brush fires breaking out all over the place before we got that beneficial rain that really didn't help out too much. And we're back in that same ballpark. You see Sunday when the front comes through, wind gusts in that 25 to 30 mile per hour ballpark again. So anything that does get ignited is going to spread fast with how dry it is and how windy it is. So not the best situation for sure.
Yeah, I don't like that wind being tacked on with the drought and the heat. So how many? If we were to get a certain amount of rain, how much would we need to get us to where you were feeling good about things again?
Yeah, I mean, last week we had 1 to 2 inches of rain across a good chunk of Central Florida, and the drought expanded. So that just goes to show you how dry things are. I mean, it would take that basically probably every week for a couple weeks to start getting that moisture back into the ground. It's not a good situation. And the freeze accelerated all this. Like, if it wasn't for the freeze, it wouldn't be this bad because it, straight up killed everything that would have been green at this point. And now we just have this vegetation laying around like crazy. So it's not the best.
Yeah, definitely did not do wonders for my lawn. How would you rate that weathercast, Erica, as his wife? How well is his weekend?
What is going on?
Matt, you don't have to go home to him. I can't say like, 2, but then if I say 10, that makes it seem like I'm biased. Yeah. So you know what? I'm gonna do a 9.2.
Oh, okay.
There. So it's not perfect 10. So people at home don't think I'm biased. But
yeah, clearly, okay. I haven't had a 9.2.
I'm gonna give it a 10.
Oh, all right. DJ gives him a 10. Nice.
That's my guy right there.
Thank you for popping in there, DJ. I haven't had a 9.2 newscast in like 12 years. So, Jonathan Kagas, thank you so much. We appreciate you. Let's turn now to talk about tariffs.
It's the talk of the town.
It is the big story of the day. The Supreme Court dropped a huge, they always drop these Friday rulings. It's like, oh, here's your Friday news, people. Enjoy this.
Yeah. Good luck. We're going to go now.
Have fun. Try to get people to understand all that has to do with tariffs, which is a lot. And I did a deep dive into it today. But basically, it all comes down to what we learned in school, right? Like you remember, you learn about the presidential powers and that Congress has the power of the purse. And the Supreme Court held up that end of the bargain. It was a 6-3 ruling. So 3 of them dissented, and then 2 of Trump's nominees for the Supreme Court actually went against him in this. It was Amy Coney Barrett and Neil Gorsuch. And so you remember when the president rolled out Liberation Day, he was dropping tariffs all over the place. And that's exactly what the Supreme Court said is not allowed. You're not allowed to just take a big brush and just drop these tariffs on everybody as a president. Now, if you had congressional approval, that's a different thing. So these specific emergency use tariffs were declared unconstitutional today by the Supreme Court. And this is a big deal because it will shape the U.S. economy. We're talking in the neighborhood. I spoke with several experts, economists today, who said $200 billion a year is about what they were projecting over the next 10 years for these specific tariffs to bring in. And so this is very big. There's a lot of questions about, will the U.S. government have to pay back that money since this is retroactive, but the Supreme Court didn't really touch that? Will these maybe small businesses and big businesses impacted this be impacted? So let's take a look at the first economist. This is Mr. Brian Riley, who was talking about the impact on the markets today, which it wasn't really that negligible. Looking at the markets today, I know a lot of people may have expected a big change one way or another. It didn't really have a huge impact on the markets unless you were, say, an automaker. Do you think that those prices were already baked in? Is that why we didn't see a big change?
I think most people expected this decision, and so the prices were more or less baked in. But I do think what it shows is some of the people who were really big supporters of the tariffs, from President Trump on down, said, oh, this is going to be economic catastrophe. It's going to be terrible if the Supreme Court strikes them down. And it turns out, at least so far, that hasn't been the case.
It's been interesting to see this in both directions, really, because when the president enacted all these tariffs, many economists said this is going to be terrible for the economy. It's going to go down in flames. And really, the Dow's at 50,000. We really didn't do as maybe our economy is much more resilient than we picture it. And so then this happened. Things have been reset. Now, the president came out today and said, hey, listen, this doesn't take all my powers away. I'm just going to basically have to be a little more thoughtful about it. He's still planning on adding it's so many. I had to get into the weeds today, Erica.
It's complicated.
There are so many different little sections, articles that they can use to give the president powers for tariffs. So there is this other way he can go around and do up to a 15% tariff, but he can only do it for 150 days. And at that point, he's kind of out of luck. So he's planning on using that to send it into, do more wide sweeping tariffs while using some other things. Anyway, I'm getting too far in the weeds. Here's another economist I talked to about this and what he had to say about all of it. When we all went to school, we all understand Congress has the power of the purse. Is that what this comes down to? Is that the crux of this Supreme Court decision today?
This idea that he can impose sweeping our taxes at his whim that's not found in U.S. law. So I think that's the bottom line here.
Yeah. So, if people were against these tariffs, a lot of them are saying that the checks and balances worked in this case. Yeah. And they reined in that presidential power, even though these were people who were appointed by the president. So what are you thinking?
A lot of small businesses, I feel like, are breathing a sigh of relief, at least for now, because, our community correspondent Alex Cook spoke with a grocery store in Castleberry today, and they've been struggling because it seems like these small businesses are eating up the costs, and then they're passing those costs on to consumers. The woman he spoke with was saying they were charging $1.89 for one mango. One
mango.
One mango.
Yeah, that's
I'm not
crazy.
going to the grocery store and buying one mango. And people are going to be like, I'm not paying for this, but those goods are imported. I believe those were from Brazil, they were saying. Yeah. So, my dad's a small business owner. I feel for these businesses, and, hopefully we can all figure something out. Yeah. But to me, this system of checks and balances, it just takes me back to middle school history class,
Right.
and seeing it actually play out in real life is pretty cool.
Yeah, and Congress, they're supposed to be in charge of the budget, and they're supposed to be in charge of things like tariffs on other countries. So the question is, it is a living, breathing document. Do we want to go down a road in which one person has more power than those other two branches? And at least in this case, it was held in check. We'll see what happens in the future. And now, again, this is not all. I feel like a lot of the headlines I'm reading, it seems like all tariffs are gone. Big ones like aluminum, steel, many of the other tariffs put in by the president are still activated for those other ways that he used them. But this was a big one. This is one of the more important ones. So,
okay, so another story we were efforting today. We've obtained documents about a teacher who was arrested earlier this week in Seminole County. She was arrested on sex and drug charges. According to the arrest report, they say she was living with a student and engaged in an inappropriate relationship with that student, who was a student in 2024. And our community correspondent, Catherine Silver, got all these documents today, which show a pattern of inappropriate behavior.
According to an arrest report, a former student of Mackenzie McLean's at Crooms Academy says she groomed him by buying him and his classmates alcohol, weed, and other substances and used him sexually. McLean's other indiscretions documented during her time at Seminole County Public Schools are not criminal in nature, but her personnel file shows she did violate school policy. Let's start here at Crooms, where she taught up until this week. In 2020, the principal sent this letter to McLean calling her behavior unacceptable. These are messages the district says she sent to students on Discord about another student. One reads, "He is the perfect example of what's wrong with society." Another, "I kicked blank off cheer last year." The principal warned McLean to only use approved methods of communication and not to message students overnight or talk about students. But McLean's personnel file shows her behavior was called into question years before that, when she worked here at Sanford Middle School. In 2011, the Office of Professional Practices investigated McLean after it was discovered she inadvertently used the district's email system to send 2 nude pictures to the husband of another teacher. Records show McLean was suspended without pay for 1 day and transferred here to Jackson Heights Middle School.
Okay, so that teacher right now is on leave pending the outcome of this investigation. And to me, you just think these teachers are supposed to be your mentors. You trust your kids in the classroom with them. Yeah. So I'm sure a lot of parents, this is probably some jarring news for them.
I would imagine so. It's interesting getting a look at this report because I always associate things with if it happened here. I can understand, okay, so they caught her talking to kids on Discord. That's kind of weird. And it is strange. I've talked about it on this show before, how when you have high schoolers and middle schoolers and they can, your teacher is not really supposed to follow you on Instagram, but they can, or if you have a coach and you text with them and others on the group. It's just a weird gray area that we didn't really have when we were kids. I couldn't text my teacher. I wouldn't have ever thought of calling my teacher in any scenario on this earth, but it's just interesting to see how this goes. And then you see the other one where she emailed a nude picture of herself to her co-workers. I'm used to saying co-anchors. To her co-worker's husband. Now, I feel like if somebody texted a naked picture to my wife and they were my co-worker on company email, I haven't checked with the boss. She's in the office right over there. I feel like you'd probably get fired for that.
I mean, yeah, also just you work with these people. Do you really want to muddy the waters?
Don't be sending your nudes to other people's husbands and wives. I mean, I don't know. It's strange to get a look. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen with the case that she's in now, but there were some red flags there.
There is a pattern of inappropriate behavior. As the school district said and Kat mentioned, it wasn't illegal, that part of it, the previous documents, not the arrest she's faced, the charges she's facing now, but it was a violation of the school's policy.
Very true. And we'll have to see how the case works out. We'll let you know right here on News 6 tonight. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to talk about how an iguana situation ended up killing a dog. Kind of crazy. And you got to stick around till the end for aliens. We're holding that one back.
Welcome back.
We're just talking about how weird this show is.
I'm not used to it, guys. So thank you for sticking with us and bearing with me in my first time. We just had a pretty big cold spell in Florida.
We did.
I mean, I had my fireplace on. I don't know about you.
I don't even have a fireplace.
No, I have a working one.
I almost started a fire in my living room. It was so cold at one point.
But what Florida is kind of famous for during the cold are these falling iguanas. It goes viral every time. But these iguanas can actually be pretty dangerous for your pet. Reporter Zitali Solace has a look at this crazy story in South Florida where apparently an iguana is being linked to a dog dying.
Karma and Tally were always together, but on Monday, Tally crossed to the Rainbow Bridge.
Both dogs got a hold of an iguana in my yard that had been dead, I believe. They ate the arms and legs off.
And days later, she noticed something was wrong.
And she was sliding around, kind of trying to get up, and she couldn't.
She took them to her local vet who believes the dogs contracted botulism, a toxin found in iguanas, and unfortunately there's no treatment. So I went to Dr. Evan Kedish with Lantana Atlanta's Animal Hospital.
You have bacteria starting to decompose them. Dogs come along, you can start seeing hind limb paralysis, and that will ascend up the body, eventually causing more and more problems.
Now Garrison warning others before it's too late.
Had I known that them even going near a dead iguana was possibly deadly, I would have gotten the activated charcoal, gotten the antitoxin, but I had no idea.
Meanwhile, Garrison hopes karma pulls through.
I want her to run around our yard and be happy and be back to being Karma.
Okay, so we also hope karma pulls through.
For sure.
And, you know, Matt, I'm not from Florida, so I kind of compare Florida to the Wild West when it comes to wildlife. And
it's fair comparison.
I'm from New Jersey, so we don't get a lot of the stuff you see here. But there are so many other dangers for pets. There are those colorful grasshoppers you might see popping up around your house. Those can be poisonous too.
Those caterpillars are
the
nasty.
fuzzy caterpillars.
The fuzzy ones, yes.
Frogs. So whenever I walk my dog, I'm just paranoid. You're not looking at anything.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that she was surprised that eating a random dead animal is not going to be terrible for your pet, right? I mean, like anything that's been dead for any sort of amount of time, unless it's a fresh kill. She's like, oh, it just chewed. I would wig out if my dog just randomly started chewing the legs off of an iguana. She's like, oh, it just chewed off its arms and legs. I thought it would be fine. I had no idea.
Especially, I feel like reptiles, you know, there's a reason why they thrive in the wild. They have different skin tones to protect themselves. You know, this one, like those grasshoppers I was talking about, the plants they eat, that's how they get the toxin. So if your dog eats that, it's going to get sick too.
Yeah. I mean, I would never eat anything that has that weird egg-shaped thing on them. I talk about this is what freaks me out about iguanas. Have you ever seen that weird like eye that they have right here?
And then it just like moves.
It's just like an egg. I don't know how to explain it, but I would never let my dogs eat that. So keep your dogs away from iguana bodies or any dead bodies that are out there. We've talked about e-bikes quite a bit on this show. All these communities are being overrun by kids with these e-bikes. The e-bikes go way faster than you would maybe expect them to go. Well, Claremont Police, they put a warning out today that caught our attention because they said they're getting word, they're hearing rumblings about an e-bike takeover on the downtown roads.
Wow.
So they're taking some steps to address it. They're saying, hey, you need to talk to your kids because not only will we arrest them if they're out there participating in this, but we will also take that prized e-bike of theirs. They're urging the parents and the guardians, talk to them about the requirements and the safety risks. Now, it's not illegal to ride an e-bike downtown. You can definitely do that. But these takeovers are where kids get on the streets. They slow down other traffic. They block intersections. They're doing wheelies and being idiots out there. So if your kid's taking part in that, sounds like they're going to crack down on it in Claremont this weekend. So maybe something to watch out for.
We've seen a bunch of cities trying to crack down on e-bikes. I know the land police were trying to get a ban of them on sidewalks.
Right.
Because think about how fast they move. I mean,
if you're walking on a sidewalk, yeah.
And the state legislator is trying to take up a bill right now regarding e-bikes. So this is a big talker in Central Florida. It seems like they're everywhere these days.
It is the Wild West with these e-bikes. All right, we're going to talk about aliens, and I want to save all the time that we have left for these, so we'll be right back with that. Welcome back to News 6 Tonight. I never thought I would see what I'm seeing with my own eyes. And, even this story, the fact that presidents are acknowledging the existence of aliens is buried. This is the last story in our show. This should be top. Above tariffs, we're talking aliens here.
I mean, this has been something that I feel like the world just wants to know about. I mean, in the U.S., Area 51.
Yeah, there's long been speculation.
Yes.
But, okay, so just to put this in perspective, President Obama did this random podcast. And in the podcast, they said, are they aliens? And he's like, yeah, they're aliens. And he said it just as matter of fact as you've ever heard before. And then they go to the current president, President Donald Trump, and they say, did you hear what President Obama said about aliens? And instead of him just disregarding it or being like, that's crazy, he goes, he shouldn't have said that. That's classified information.
President Trump is promising to begin the process of identifying what the government knows about UFOs and aliens. Earlier Thursday, he accused former President Barack Obama of allegedly revealing classified information when Obama was asked on a podcast about aliens.
They're real, but I haven't seen them, and they're not being kept in, what is it?
Area 51.
Area 51.
The former president's confirmation that we might not be alone led to so much online speculation that he quickly felt compelled to clarify his stance on Instagram, writing, I saw no evidence during my presidency that extraterrestrials have made contact with us. Really? Lara Trump, who's married to the president's son, told another podcast,
there is some speech that he has. He's going to break out and talk about, and it has to do with maybe some sort of extraterrestrial life.
But the White House press...
Okay, all right. Are we convinced?
I mean, if anyone is going to know that there are aliens, you would think it would be presidents. I mean, they hold what? The nuclear launch codes. They would know if there's extraterrestrial life.
But think about, is there something that they can say to the president? We're going to tell you this, but you can't talk about it. It's classified. Or we'll do what to you as a president? Come on now. I've never had such a thick tinfoil hat on as I do today.
And they're both such polar opposites. The fact that they both acknowledged it.
Right.
There's got to be some truth to that.
DJ, can we agree on this? Aliens?
Yes.
They're here. Have a great weekend. Thanks for watching.